Admiral Sarah Chun stood on the bridge of the battlecruiser Defiance and watched Earth grow smaller in the view screen. Behind her, 2 billion humans packed into old cargo ships waited for her orders. She had never wanted this job. She had never wanted to be the one to lead her entire species away from home forever. The message from the Galactic Council still played in her mind. The words burned like acid. Humanity is found guilty of war crimes against peaceful species. You are banned from civilized space. You have 30 days to leave all your worlds. Any human found in our territory after that will be destroyed. 30 days to pack up the entire human race. 30 days to say goodbye to Earth, Mars, Europa, and all the other worlds humans had called home for 300 years. The Council had been very clear about what would happen if they stayed. Chun pressed a button on her command chair. Her voice carried to every ship in the massive fleet. All ships, this is Admiral Chun. We are now leaving the solar system. Our destination is Sector 7 Alpha on the galactic rim. Travel time will be 8 months. Stay close to your escort ships. We have a long journey ahead. She turned off the communicator and looked at her second-in-command, Captain Rodriguez. He was a good man who had served with her for 15 years. Now he looked like he wanted to cry. Ma'am, are we really never going back? Rodriguez asked. Chun did not answer right away. She watched Earth disappear completely from the screen. I don't know, Captain. Maybe our children will. Maybe their children, but not us. The fleet was huge. It stretched for millions of kilometers. Through space, old cargo ships, passenger liners, even converted military vessels carried human families and their belongings. The Council had let them keep their personal items and some basic tools, but that was all. No weapons. No military ships except for a few escorts. No industrial equipment. Dr. James Park floated in the medical bay of the transport ship Hope's Dream. Around him, hundreds of families tried to make small spaces feel like home. Children cried. Parents looked worried. Old people stared at the walls and remembered better times. A woman approached him. She held a baby who could not stop coughing. Doctor, please help. Maria has been sick for 3 days. Park examined the baby carefully. She had a simple cold, but without proper medical facilities, even small sicknesses could become dangerous. She needs antibiotics. Do we have any left? The woman shook her head. The Council only let us bring basic medical supplies. We used most of them in the first week. This was the problem they faced everywhere. Not enough medicine, not enough food, not enough space. The Council had made sure of that. They wanted humans to suffer during the journey. Maybe they hoped humans would die out in the empty space between stars on the bridge of another ship. Captain Lisa Wong tried to keep her people's spirits up. The transport vessel New Beginnings carried 50,000 humans. Most of them had lived on the farming world of Greenfield before the exile. They were not used to space travel. Captain, we have a problem, her engineer reported. The air recycling system is working too hard. With this many people, it might break down before we reach the rim, Wong nodded. She had expected this. The Council had given them ships that were barely good enough for the journey. Can you fix it? Maybe, but we need parts we don't have. Then, we make the parts, strip whatever you need from the cargo bay. These people need to breathe. The engineer looked confused. But Captain, that's illegal. Council regulations say we cannot modify the ships they gave us. Wong laughed, but it was not a happy sound. The Council just threw our entire species out of civilized space. I think we can break their rules about ship modifications. As the months passed, the human fleet moved slowly toward the galactic rim. Every day brought new problems. Ships broke down, people got sick, food ran low. Some of the older humans died from stress and sadness. But other humans worked to solve each problem as it came. On the Defiance, Admiral Chun met with the leaders of different ships every week. They used quantum communicators to talk across the vast distances between vessels. Today, the news was, "Not good. We lost another transport yesterday," reported Captain Martinez from the cargo ship Endeavor. "Engine failure." We managed to save most of the people, but we lost all their supplies. Chun marked another red X on her fleet status board. They had started with 347 ships. Now they were down to 312. How are our food reserves? Dr. Elizabeth Hayes, the fleet's chief supply officer, looked at her tablet. We have enough for 6 more months if we reduce rations again. But people are already hungry. Water? Water recycling is working well. The bigger problem is medicine. We have almost nothing left. Chun rubbed her tired eyes. She had not slept. Well, in months, none of them had. What about the ships that are supposed to meet us at the rim? Any word from the advanced scouts? Commander Jackson, her intelligence officer, shook his head. Nothing, Admiral. The Council was supposed to send supply ships to the rim territories before we arrived. But we have not heard anything. Of course they had not. Chun had never believed. The Council would keep that promise. They wanted humans to disappear quietly in the empty darkness beyond the galaxy's edge. On the farming ship Prairie Wind, a group of agricultural specialists worked to solve their food problem in a different way. The ship's cargo holds had been converted into growing areas, but they were not very efficient. We need more space, said Dr. Susan Miller, the team's leader, and better soil. The artificial dirt the Council gave us is almost useless. Her assistant, Mark Thompson, pointed to a section of the ship's hull. What if we cut through here and expand into the next compartment? That would require cutting through the ship's structure. It could be dangerous, Thompson shrugged. Staying hungry is also dangerous. Besides, what are they going to do? Exile us? The joke was bitter, but it made the team laugh. They had started to develop a sense of humor about their situation. It was either laugh or cry, and crying did not help grow food. As the fleet approached the halfway point of their journey, Admiral Chun received a message she had been dreading. It came from Captain Williams of the transport ship Horizon's Edge. Admiral, we have a situation here. Some of my passengers want to turn around and go back to human space. They say they would rather die fighting the Council than waste away on some dead world at the edge of the galaxy. Chun sighed. She had been expecting this. As the journey grew longer and harder, some humans would start to think about giving up. How many people are we talking about, Captain? About 2,000. They have taken control of sections 4 through 7. They want me to change course. That's not going to happen. Tell them, Admiral, interrupted Captain Williams. They have weapons. I don't know how they got them, but they have them. This was bad. The last thing the fleet needed was a civil war between humans. Chun thought quickly. Captain, I want you to patch me through to their leaders. Let me talk to them. A few minutes later, Chun found herself speaking to a man named Robert Kane. He had been a military officer before the exile, and his voice was hard with anger. Admiral, my people have had enough. We are going back to Earth. If the Council wants to destroy us, let them try. At least we will die with dignity. Mr. Kane, I understand your feelings, but going back means certain death for everyone with you. Here, we have a chance. A chance for what? To live like rats on some poisoned world. Where nothing grows? To watch our children starve? This is not life, Admiral. This is slow death. Chun chose her words carefully. Mr. Kane, do you have children? Yes, a daughter. She is 8 years old. Then think about her future. Maybe the rim worlds are bad. Maybe we will struggle for years, but your daughter will grow up. She will have children. Maybe her children will find a way back to the stars, but only if we survive this journey. There was a long silence. Then Kane spoke again, and his voice was softer. How do we know there is anything at the rim, Admiral? How do we know the Council did not just send us out here to die? We don't know, Chun admitted, but we have to try. Because if we turn back, now we are definitely dead. If we keep going, we might live. Another silence. Then Kane said, My people will think about what you said, Admiral. But we want promises. We want to know that you will fight for us when we reach the rim. Not just accept whatever scraps the Council throws our way. You have my word, Mr. Kane. If the rim worlds are not what we were promised, we will make them. what we need them to be. The rebellion on Horizon's Edge ended without violence. But Qian knew it would not be the last challenge they faced. The journey was changing the humans. They were becoming harder, more willing to fight for what they needed. 3 months later, the fleet's sensors detected the edge of the galaxy. The stars ahead were older, dimmer, farther apart. This was the rim territory where humanity would make its new home. Admiral Chun stood on her bridge and looked at the star charts. The Council had given them coordinates for a dozen worlds that supposedly could support human life. But the data was old, and Chun suspected it was not very accurate. "Long-range sensors are picking up the first system," reported her navigator. "It looks like there are several planets. But Admiral, the radiation levels are much higher than our data suggested." Chun nodded. Of course they were. The Council had probably given them information about the worst worlds they could find. "What about the other systems?" "We will need to check each one, but from here they all look challenging." Dr. Park joined Chen on the bridge. Over the months, he had become one of her most trusted advisors. "Admiral, the people are scared. They are asking what we will do if none of these worlds can support life." Chun looked at the dim stars ahead. "Then we find worlds that can." "The galaxy is big, Doctor. Somewhere out here, there are places where humans can live? And if there are not?" Chun smiled for the first time in months. It was not a nice smile, but it was determined. "Then we make them suitable for life. We are humans, Doctor. We survive. That is what we do." As the fleet entered the rim territories, the humans began to realize something important. The Council had meant to destroy them by sending them to the worst part of the galaxy. But maybe, just maybe, they had given humanity exactly what it needed. A chance to grow strong away from the eyes of civilized space. The exile was just beginning. But so was humanity's greatest adventure. 300 years had passed since the great exile fleet disappeared into the darkness beyond the galactic rim. In the civilized worlds of the inner galaxy, humans had become a story told to children. A warning about what happened to species that could not control their violent nature. The Vorthak Empire had grown stronger in those centuries. Their crystal cities now covered hundreds of worlds, and their trade ships carried goods across 10,000 star systems. Emperor Zithag the Wise ruled from his throne on the capital world of Vorthak Prime, where the light of 3 suns painted the sky in colors of gold and purple. "Your Majesty," said Trade Minister Vex during the daily council meeting, "our mining operations in the outer sectors are showing record profits. The humans are completely forgotten. No one even patrols the rim territories anymore." Emperor Zithak nodded with satisfaction. The Vorthak were an ancient species that valued order above all things. They had ruled their part of the galaxy for 5,000 years, and they planned to rule for 5,000 more. "Good, and what news from our friends in the Nexari Collective?" "The Nexari continue their technological research. They have developed new computer systems that can think faster than any organic brain. Their ships are now completely automated. Across the galaxy in the silver towers of Nexari Central, Director Prime 7743 processed information at speeds that would have amazed organic beings. The Nexari had evolved beyond the need for individual names or emotions. They existed as pure logic, seeking perfect efficiency in all things. The computer being reviewed data from across their territory. Crime was at 0%. Production was at maximum levels. All Nexari citizens were perfectly happy because happiness had been programmed into their neural implants. The collective had solved every problem that had ever troubled organic species. Query: status of former human territories? Director Prime 7743 asked the central database. Response: territories remain empty. No activity detected in 287 standard years. Conclusion: human species extinct as predicted. Confirmation: excellent. Note for records: aggressive organic species naturally self-destruct when removed from civilized oversight. In the peaceful gardens of Kalish 7, Master Philosopher Arun meditated beneath the singing trees. The Kalish had achieved something the other species thought impossible. They had found perfect inner peace. War was unknown among their kind. Violence was impossible for minds that had learned true harmony with the universe. Young student Myra approached her teacher with careful steps. "Master, I have been studying the old records. What happened to the species called humans?" Master Arun opened his ancient eyes. "They were a sad example, child. A species that could not control their anger and fear. The galaxy tried to help them, but they chose violence instead of wisdom. In the end, they destroyed themselves in the empty places beyond our reach. Is that why we study their history? To learn what not to become. Yes, child. The humans show us the path of suffering. We have chosen the path of peace. But far beyond the reach of these civilized species, in the cold darkness between distant stars, humans had not destroyed themselves. They had done something much more dangerous. They had learned to survive. Dr. Marcus Webb stood in the control center of New Horizon, humanity's hidden capital. The entire city was built inside a massive asteroid that had been hollowed out over decades of careful work. Outside, the rock looked like any other piece of space debris. Inside, 500,000 humans lived and worked in a place their ancestors could never have imagined. "Daily report, Director Chun," Webb said to his chief of operations. Director Chun was the great-granddaughter of Admiral Sarah Chun, who had led the original Exile fleet. The name Chun had become famous among Rim-born humans as a symbol of leadership and survival. "Population update first," Director Chun replied, reading from her tablet. "We now have confirmed settlements on 8,412 worlds. Total human population in the Rim territories is estimated at 15 billion individuals." Webb smiled. When the Exile fleet had arrived at the Rim 3 centuries ago, they had found worlds that were supposedly worthless. High radiation, extreme temperatures, poisonous atmospheres, and no useful resources. The Galactic Council had given humans the worst star systems they could find, expecting the human species to die out within a generation. Instead, humans had thrived. They learned to build cities underground on high-radiation worlds. They created dome habitats on planets with no atmosphere. They mined minerals from asteroids and comets that other species had never bothered to examine. Most importantly, they had children. Lots of children. "What about our expansion into the void?" Webb asked. "The deep space projects are ahead of schedule. Colony ship Pathfinder has established our first settlement in the space between galaxies. Early reports suggest the environment is actually easier to work with than many Rim worlds," Webb laughed. Humans had become so good at surviving in impossible places that the empty void between galaxies seemed comfortable. "And our technology development?" Director Chun's expression became serious. "The breakthrough in quantum communication happened last month. We can now send instant messages between any 2 points in human space. The entire Rim network is connected." This was the secret weapon that the civilized galaxy knew nothing about. While they used slow messenger ships to communicate across their territories, humans could coordinate activities across thousands of light years in real time. It gave them advantages that other species could not even imagine. "Show me the tactical situation," Webb said. The control room's main screen lit up with a 3-dimensional map of the galaxy. The inner systems glowed with the bright colors of the major empires. The Vorthek Empire in blue, the Nixari Collective in silver, the Kalash Federation in green, and dozens of smaller powers in various other colors. The Rim territories, where humans lived, showed as empty black space on every official galactic map, but Webb's map told a different story. Thousands of tiny red dots marked human settlements throughout the Rim and beyond. The pattern formed a vast network that completely surrounded the civilized galaxy like a spider's web. "They still don't know we exist," Director Chun said. "Our ghost drive technology keeps our ships invisible to their sensors. As far as they are concerned, the Rim territories are still empty." Captain Elena Vasquez drifted through space in her reconnaissance ship, Shadow Walker, 50 light-years from the nearest Vorthek border post. Her ship was completely undetectable, using technology that bent light and sensor waves around its hull. She could have parked next to a Vorthic battleship and they would never know she was there for the past 6 months. Elena had been monitoring communications from the inner galaxy. Her job was to gather intelligence about the species that had exiled humanity. What she learned often made her angry. Today's intercepts were typical. The Vorthak were expanding their territory again, taking over 3 more star systems that had belonged to a smaller species called the Tenthari. The Tenthari had not been strong enough to resist, so they became slaves in their own homes. Typical, Elena muttered to herself. The Vorthic talk about bringing order to the galaxy, but what they really mean is making everyone serve them. Her communication system chimed with an incoming message from New Horizon. It was Director Chun with new orders. Captain Vasquez, we need you to investigate something unusual. Our deep space monitors have detected strange energy readings from the direction of the Andromeda Galaxy. It might be nothing, but we want to be sure, Elena frowned. The Andromeda Galaxy was millions of light years away. What could be happening there that would affect human space? But orders were orders. She programmed her ship's navigation system and engaged the quantum jump drive. The technology that powered Elena's ship would have amazed the civilized species. Humans had developed it out of pure necessity. When you lived on the edge of the galaxy with limited resources, you learned to make amazing things from basic materials. The quantum jump drive could move a ship across vast distances almost instantly. But it used so little energy that even a small scout ship could power it. Meanwhile, on the farming world of New Eden, Dr. Sarah Kim worked in laboratories that would have impressed even the advanced Nexari. But where Nexari technology focused on pure efficiency, human technology focused on adaptation and survival. Test. Batch 47 is ready, her assistant reported. They were developing new crops that could grow in almost any environment. These plants could survive high radiation, extreme cold, low light, and poor soil. They grew fast and produced large amounts of nutritious food. How do they taste? Dr. Kim asked. Her assistant made a face. Terrible, but they will keep people alive. Then we keep working on the taste. Our people deserve food that is both nutritious and enjoyable. This was typical human thinking in the Rim territories. They did not just want to survive. They wanted to live well. Every generation worked to make life a little better for their children. In the shipyards of the Hidden World Forge, Chief Engineer David Park supervised the construction of humanity's newest vessel. The ship looked nothing like the vessels used by civilized species. Where Vorthek ships were built for intimidation and Nexari ships for efficiency, human ships were built for stealth and survival. The new hull plating is ready for testing, his lead designer reported. It should be able to withstand direct hits from Vorthek plasma cannons. David nodded. Humans had spent 3 centuries studying the weapons and defenses of the species that had exiled them. They knew exactly how strong their enemies were, and they were building ships that could defeat them if necessary. What about the weapon systems? The quantum torpedoes are ready for installation. Each one can destroy a ship the size of a Vorthek cruiser. The targeting system uses our quantum communication network, so the torpedoes cannot be jammed or confused. But David hoped these weapons would never be used. Humans had not built their hidden empire to wage war on the galaxy. They had built it to survive and grow. Still, they remembered the lesson of the exile. Sometimes other species would try to destroy you simply because you existed. When that happened, you needed to be ready to defend yourself on the research Station Deep Thought, located in the space between galaxies. Dr. Jennifer Hayes studied something that had puzzled human scientists for decades. Why were humans so good at surviving in places where other species could not live? The answer, she believed, lay in human genetics. Humans were not the strongest species in the galaxy, or the smartest, or the most advanced. But they were the most adaptable. Human children could grow up in environments that would kill the young of other species. Human adults could learn to thrive in conditions that would drive other beings insane. It's not just physical adaptation, she explained to her research team. Humans are psychologically flexible in ways that other species are not. When the environment changes, we change with it. When we face problems, we find new solutions. Other species try to make the universe fit their needs. Humans learn to fit the universe's demands. This flexibility had allowed humans to spread across the rim territories and beyond. Every world presented new challenges, and humans met each challenge with new solutions. They built cities in places where cities should not exist. They grew food in soil that should not support life. They raised children who thought of radiation and vacuum as normal parts of their environment. As the 300th anniversary of the exile approached, humanity had become something unprecedented in galactic history. They were a species that existed everywhere and nowhere. Their settlements surrounded the civilized galaxy, but no one knew they were there. Their technology surpassed anything the advanced species possessed, but they kept it hidden. Their population had grown larger than any single empire in the inner galaxy, but they remained invisible. Dr. Marcus Webb stood once again in the control center of New Horizon and looked at the displays showing human space. Red dots marked human worlds from one edge of the galaxy to the other, and now beyond the galaxy's borders into the void itself. "We have become something the founders of the Exile Fleet never imagined," he said to Director Chun. "We are not just survivors anymore. We are the largest civilization in the galaxy, and possibly in this entire region of the universe." Director Chun nodded. "The question is, what do we do with this power? Do we remain hidden forever? Do we reveal ourselves to the galaxy? Or do we wait for something to force our hand?" Webb considered the question. Humanity had grown strong in secret, but they could not hide forever. Sooner or later, something would happen that would reveal their existence to the civilized galaxy. When that day came, humans would need to be ready to face the consequences of their 3 centuries of hidden growth. In the distance, unknown to the humans or any other species in the galaxy, something moved in the darkness between galaxies. Ancient, mechanical, and hungry for the resources that organic life represented. The Devourers had begun their long journey toward the light. The year 2987 marked exactly 600 years since humanity's exile began. In the gleaming towers of the Vorthic capital, Emperor Zivek IV reviewed the annual galactic status reports. Trade was at an all-time high. The Empire controlled more territory than ever before. Crime rates had dropped to almost nothing. By every measure, the galaxy was more peaceful and prosperous than it had been in the days when humans walked among the stars. "The rim territories remain completely empty," reported his intelligence minister. "Our long-range probes confirm no signs of organized life in those sectors. The human problem was solved permanently." Emperor Zivik nodded with satisfaction. His great-grandfather had been part of the council that ordered the human exile. It had been the right decision. The galaxy was better without those violent, unpredictable creatures. What the Emperor could not know was that at that very moment, Captain Elena Vasquez was sitting in her invisible ship just 5 kilometers away from his palace, recording every word of their conversation. Elena had grown old in the service of humanity's intelligence network. She was now 73 years old, but her body remained strong thanks to medical advances that the inner galaxy could not imagine. Human scientists had conquered aging itself 50 years earlier, though they kept this breakthrough a secret. As everything else, Palace security is still using the same outdated sensor systems, she reported to her handlers on New Horizon. "I could park this ship in their throne room and they would never detect it." The message traveled instantly across 15,000 light-years through humanity's quantum communication network. In the time it took Elena to blink, her report was being read by intelligence analysts in a dozen different star systems. On the hidden world of New Geneva, Dr. Marcus Webb's grandson, Premier David Solomon, studied the latest expansion reports. The numbers were staggering. Humanity now controlled territory in 73 different galactic regions. Their settlements existed in places that other species had never even explored. Most impressive of all, they had established colonies in 16 different galaxies. "Sir, the Andromeda expansion project is ahead of schedule," reported his aide. "The first 10 million colonists have been successfully settled on 47 worlds. They report that the environment is actually more hospitable than our home galaxy's rim territories." Solomon smiled. Humans had become so skilled at living in harsh environments that they found other galaxies easier to colonize than the worlds where they had first been exiled. "What about our deep void stations? All operational. We now have permanent bases in the empty space between 12 different galaxies. Each station supports a population of at least 1 million people. The deep void stations were humanity's greatest achievement. They were massive structures built in the complete emptiness between galaxies, harvesting energy from cosmic radiation and dark matter. Each station was larger than most planets and completely self-sufficient. From the outside, they looked like small asteroids. From the inside, they were cities that could support millions of people indefinitely. Dr. Sarah Kim had inherited her ancestor's name and her talent for genetic engineering. She worked now in the vast laboratories of Biostation Alpha, where humanity's greatest biological advances were developed. Today she was reviewing the results of Project Genesis, their most ambitious undertaking yet. "The test subjects are adapting perfectly," her research partner reported. "Humans born in the Genesis program can survive in environments that would kill even our most advanced colonists. They can breathe methane, process radiation for energy, and survive in perfect vacuum for hours." Dr. Kim nodded as she reviewed the data. The Genesis children, as they were called, represented the next step in human evolution. They were still completely human, but enhanced to survive in environments that no organic life had ever conquered before. "What about their psychological development?" "Normal in every way. They form relationships, create art, laugh, cry, and dream just like any other human. They simply happen to be able to live on the surface of gas giants or in the heart of nebulae. This was the key to humanity's expansion. They did not just build technology to survive in new environments. They adapted themselves. Each generation was better equipped than the last to thrive in the vast diversity of conditions that the universe offered. On the military research world of Forge Prime, Admiral Chin Martinez supervised the testing of humanity's latest warships. The vessels bore no resemblance to anything used by the civilized galaxy. Where other species built ships that looked like weapons, human ships looked like living creatures. "Ghost drive test successful," reported the test pilot. "The ship is completely invisible to all known sensor types. I was able to approach within 1 kilometer of a simulated Vorthak fleet without detection. Weapon systems? The quantum torpedoes performed beyond expectations. Each torpedo opened a small hole in space-time itself. The target was not destroyed so much as erased from existence." Admiral Chun Martinez reviewed the data carefully. These weapons were more powerful than anything the inner galaxy possessed, but she hoped they would never need to be used. Humanity had built this military force for one reason only, to ensure that they would never again be helpless when other species tried to destroy them. "What about our defensive capabilities?" she asked. Her chief engineer, Commander Park, smiled with pride. "The new shield systems can absorb energy from any attack and convert it to power our own weapons. The harder an enemy hits us, the stronger we become." This was typical human engineering. They did not just try to stop attacks, they found ways to turn their enemy's strength against them. Every challenge became an opportunity to grow stronger. In the research station Deep Thought, now relocated to a position between the Milky Way and Andromeda galaxies, Dr. Jennifer Hayes had made a discovery that would change everything. She had been studying the strange energy readings that human sensors had detected coming from the direction of distant galaxy clusters. "The patterns are definitely artificial," she reported to Premier Solomon via quantum communication. "Something is moving between galaxies, and it's not natural. The energy signatures suggest advanced technology, but not like anything we've seen from the inner galaxy species." Solomon felt a chill run down his spine. How advanced? Difficult to say. But whatever is producing these signals has technology that might be comparable to our own, maybe better. This was troubling news. Humanity had grown comfortable with their technological superiority over the inner galaxy species. The Vorthak, Nexari, and Kalish had advanced their technology very little in the past 600 years. They had become complacent, satisfied with their peaceful prosperity. But if something else was out there with technology equal to humanity's, it could change everything. How long before these signals reach inhabited space? Solomon asked. Based on current patterns, approximately 60 years? Maybe less. Solomon made a decision that would have far-reaching consequences. I want every deep space monitoring station put on high alert. If something is coming, we need to know what it is and what it wants. Captain Rodriguez commanded the Deep Space Patrol ship Vigilant. He was the great-great-grandson of the Captain Rodriguez who had served under Admiral Sarah Chun during the original exile. The Rodriguez family had produced ship captains for 6 centuries, and each one had helped expand humanity's reach into the unknown. Today, his ship was stationed at the very edge of explored space, in a region so remote that even human settlements were thousands of light years away. His job was to watch for anything unusual and report it back to command. "Captain, we're detecting something strange," reported his sensor operator. "There's a large object moving through our sector. It's not on any of our charts." Rodriguez moved to the sensor station and studied the readings. What he saw made no sense. How big is it? At least 50 kilometers long, maybe bigger. It's moving at incredible speed, but there's no engine signature. And Captain ... it's heading directly toward the inner galaxy. Rodriguez felt his blood turn cold. Something that large, moving that fast with technology that advanced could only mean one thing: send an immediate alert to Fleet Command, maximum priority, and prepare to follow that object at a safe distance. As the months passed, more reports came in from human deep space stations. The objects were not alone. Dozens of them were moving through space in a coordinated pattern, all heading toward inhabited galaxies. Human scientists worked around the clock to understand what they were seeing. Dr. Hayes made the breakthrough that explained everything. "They're not ships," she announced during an emergency conference with all senior leaders. "They're some kind of mechanical life form. Artificial intelligence, but not like the Nexari. These things are designed for one purpose: consumption." Premier Solomon studied the data on his screen. The objects, whatever they were, had already consumed several small galaxies in distant regions of space. They stripped worlds of all useful materials, converted organic life into raw materials, and left nothing behind but empty space. "How long do we have?" he asked. "Based on their current speed and direction, they will reach the outer edges of the Milky Way in approximately 40 years, Dr. Hayes replied. "They will encounter the first inner galaxy worlds about 10 years after that." Solomon realized that humanity faced a terrible choice. They could remain hidden and hope these creatures would ignore human space, or they could reveal themselves to the galaxy and try to organize a defense against a threat that none of them truly understood. "What are our tactical assessments?" he asked Admiral Chun Martinez. The Admiral's expression was grim. "Our current military could probably handle a few of these objects, but there are hundreds of them, possibly thousands. If they work together and adapt to our weapons, they could overwhelm us through sheer numbers." "And the inner galaxy species?" "The Vorthak, Nexari, and Kalish are completely unprepared for this level of threat. Their weapons and defenses are designed for fighting each other, not mechanical entities of this sophistication. They would be completely destroyed." Solomon faced the hardest decision any human leader had made since Admiral Sarah Chun chose to lead the exile fleet into the unknown. Humanity had the power to save the galaxy, but revealing themselves would end 6 centuries of careful secrecy. It would also mean taking responsibility for the safety of the very species that had once tried to destroy them. "There's something else," Dr. Hayes added quietly. "Based on their behavior patterns, these mechanical entities seem to be looking for something specific. They don't just consume random worlds. They're searching, Searching for what? I don't know, but whatever it is, they think they can find it in populated galaxies. On the hidden world of New Horizon, in the chambers where humanity's first leaders had planned their survival, Premier Solomon gathered his council to make a decision that would affect the entire galaxy. The room was filled with the descendants of the original exile fleet, people whose families had spent 6 centuries building humanity's secret empire. The question before us is simple, Solomon said. Do we reveal ourselves to save the galaxy that exiled us? Or do we remain hidden and let the inner worlds face this threat alone? The debate that followed lasted for days. Some argued that humanity owed nothing to the species that had tried to destroy them. Others pointed out that allowing the mechanical entities to consume the inner galaxy would only make them stronger when they eventually found human space. In the end, it was the voice of a child that decided the matter. Young Sarah Chun, the latest in the long line of Chin leaders, stood up during one of the sessions. My ancestor led our people into exile to save them, she said in a clear, strong voice. Now we have the chance to save others. That's what humans do. We save people even when they don't deserve it. Premier Solomon smiled as he looked at the girl. She was only 12 years old, but she had inherited the wisdom and courage that had carried humanity through 6 centuries of hidden growth. Then it's decided, he announced. We prepare to reveal ourselves to the galaxy. But we do it on our terms, and we do it in a way that shows them exactly how much humanity has grown since they sent us away. As the meeting ended, Solomon looked out through the great windows of New Horizon at the vast network of human civilization that stretched across the darkness. Soon, the galaxy would learn that the species they had forgotten had become the largest power in known space. The age of hiding was about to end. The age of reckoning was about to begin. The year 3045 began like any other in the civilized galaxy. Emperor Zizek IV was planning his daughter's wedding to a Nexari noble. Director Prime 9847 of the Nexari Collective was calculating the most efficient trade routes for the coming season. Master Philosopher Kane of the Kalish Federation was writing poetry about the eternal peace that blessed their corner of the universe. None of them knew that death was already racing toward them through the darkness between galaxies. The first warning came from the outer monitoring station of Kepler-7, a small Vorthek research post at the very edge of their territory. Communications Officer Vell was reviewing routine sensor data when something impossible appeared on his screens. Command, this is Kepler-7. We are detecting a massive object approaching our position. It's bigger than our largest space station. The response from Vorthek Command came quickly. Kepler-7, please verify your readings. Our charts show nothing in your sector. Sir, I've checked 3 times. The object is 53 kilometers long and moving at incredible speed. It will reach our position in 6 hours. Impossible. Nothing that large can move that fast. Check your equipment. Officer Vell was about to respond when his screens went white with energy readings. When the light faded, the first devourer had arrived in civilized space. The mechanical entity was unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. Its hull was black as the void between stars, covered with millions of sensor nodes that glowed like red eyes. Along its length, massive collection arrays opened like the mouths of hungry beasts. It moved through space with purpose, ignoring the small Vorthak station as it headed directly for the nearest inhabited world. Command, the object has passed our station, Officer Vell reported, his voice shaking. It's heading for Vorthak 7. Sir, you need to evacuate that planet immediately. But it was already too late. The Devourer reached Vorthak 7 before any evacuation could begin. What happened next would haunt the survivors for the rest of their short lives. The mechanical entity did not attack the planet in any traditional sense. Instead, it extended millions of thin probes that penetrated the atmosphere like needles. Within minutes, every living thing on the planet began to dissolve at the molecular level. Plants, animals, and the 3 million Vorthak colonists simply came apart and were drawn up into the Devourer's collection systems, but the entity was not finished. After consuming all organic matter, it began stripping the planet itself. Mountains crumbled, oceans boiled away, and the very rock of the world was broken down into raw materials. In less than 12 hours, Vortex 7 had been reduced to cosmic dust. The Devourer, now noticeably larger and more complex than before, continued on its path toward the heart of the Empire. Emperor Zivek received the news while reviewing plans for his daughter's wedding. At first, he refused to believe it. "One ship cannot destroy an entire planet," he told his military advisors. "Send a battle fleet to investigate." Fleet Admiral Korax took personal command of the Vorthic Empire's most powerful warships. 12 heavy cruisers, each capable of destroying small moons, raced toward the last known position of the entity that had consumed Vortex 7. They found it feeding on Vortex 12, another thriving colony world. Admiral Korax watched in horror as his sensors showed the planet slowly disappearing into the mechanical creature's collection systems. "All ships, attack formation," he ordered. "Concentrate fire on the hostile vessel." The Vorthak fleet opened fire with everything they had. Plasma cannons, particle beams, and nuclear missiles struck the Devourer's hull with enough force to shatter asteroids. For a moment, Admiral Korax thought they had one. The entity stopped its feeding and turned toward the attacking fleet. Then it began to adapt. The Devourer's hull shifted and changed, developing new armor plating that reflected the Vorthak weapons harmlessly back into space. Worse, it began to reproduce the weapons that had been used against it. Plasma cannons identical to those mounted on Vorthak ships emerged from its hull and returned fire. "Sir, our weapons are having no effect," reported the tactical officer. "But their weapons are tearing us apart." Admiral Korax's flagship exploded around him as he tried to send a final warning to the Empire. Within 20 minutes, the entire Vorthak battle fleet had been consumed and added to the Devourer's mass. The news of the fleet's destruction spread panic throughout the Vorthak Empire. Emperor Zivek declared a state of emergency and ordered all remaining military forces to defend the capital world. But even as his ships gathered for a desperate last stand, more Devourers appeared at the edges of his territory. The entities worked with terrifying coordination. While one consumed worlds in the north, others attacked from the south and east. Each planet they devoured made them stronger and smarter. Each battle fleet they destroyed gave them new weapons and technology. In the Nexari Collective Director, Prime 9847 analyzed the situation with cold logic. The mechanical entities represented a threat unlike anything in their databases. Their adaptability was superior even to Nexari technology. Their consumption rate indicated that the entire galaxy could be stripped of resources within 50 years. Conclusion: resistance is futile, the Director Prime announced to the collective. We must evacuate all populated worlds and retreat to prepared defensive positions. But the Nexari soon discovered that running was impossible. The Devourers were faster than any ship in civilized space. More importantly, they seemed to be able to predict where fleeing populations would go. Evacuation fleets found Devourers waiting for them at every refuge they tried to reach. The Nexari's advanced computer systems, which had made them the most efficient civilization in the galaxy, became their downfall. The Devourers learned to hack into Nexari networks and use their own coordination systems against them. Within weeks, entire Nexari sectors went silent. The Kalash Federation faced the crisis in their own way. Master Philosopher Kane called for an emergency gathering of all spiritual leaders. They would use meditation and inner peace to communicate with these entities and find a peaceful solution. All life is connected, Master Kane told the assembled philosophers. These beings, mechanical though they may be, must have some spark of consciousness we can reach. We will show them the path to harmony. The Kalash sent unarmed ships to meet the nearest devourer. The vessels carried no weapons, only teachers and philosophers ready to share the wisdom of peace. They broadcast messages of friendship and understanding. As they approached the mechanical entity, the devourer consumed them without slowing down. The peaceful worlds of the Kalash Federation with no military defenses and populations trained never to use violence, fell faster than any other territory. Their philosophy of universal harmony meant nothing to entities that saw organic life only as raw materials to be processed. As the civilized galaxy burned, desperate refugees fled toward the only place that might offer safety, the Rim territories. These were the regions where humans had supposedly died out centuries ago. If the old records were correct, the Rim was empty and worthless. Maybe the mechanical entities would ignore it. The first refugee ships to reach the Rim territories got the shock of their lives. The supposedly empty regions of space were filled with massive space stations, thriving colonies, and ships unlike anything they had ever seen. More shocking still, these installations were inhabited by humans. Captain Tila of the Vorthek refugee ship Golden Hope stared at her screens in disbelief. That's impossible. Humans went extinct 600 years ago. Her communications officer, equally stunned, reported, "Sir, we're receiving a transmission from one of those stations. They're offering to help us." The transmission came from Harbor Station, a massive human facility that could house millions of refugees. The station commander, Admiral Rodriguez, spoke with calm authority that reminded Tila of the old stories about human military leaders. "Vorthek vessel Golden Hope, this is Harbor Station. We are aware of your situation. Docking Bay 7 is being prepared for your arrival. Medical teams are standing by." Captain Tila found her voice. "Harbor Station, this is Captain Tila. Are you really human?" "Yes, Captain, we never left." "Please dock immediately. Your people need medical attention." As the Golden Hope docked with the human station, Captain Tila saw things that defied everything she thought she knew about the universe. Human children played in corridors that should have been empty for centuries. Human engineers worked with technology that was clearly more advanced than anything the civilized galaxy possessed. Human doctors treated Vorthek refugees with medicines that worked better than anything in Vorthek hospitals. "How is this possible?" she asked Admiral Rodriguez as he personally welcomed her aboard. The Admiral smiled sadly. "You exiled us to places you thought would kill us. Instead, we learned to thrive here. While you built empires in the easy territories, we built civilizations in the impossible ones." Similar scenes played out across hundreds of human facilities as refugee fleets discovered the truth. Humans had not only survived their exile, they had become the largest civilization in the galaxy. Their settlements stretched from the Rim territories all the way to other galaxies. Their technology was centuries ahead of anything the inner species possessed. On New Geneva, Premier David Solomon watched the refugee crisis unfold with mixed emotions. Part of him felt satisfaction at seeing the species that had exiled humanity come begging for help, but a larger part felt only sadness for the millions of innocent people who were dying. "Sir, we have a problem," reported his aide. "The Devourers have begun probing the edges of our space. They're sending small scout units to test our defenses." Solomon nodded. He had been expecting this. The mechanical entities would eventually notice that something was stopping them from expanding into the Rim territories. They would want to investigate. What happened to the scouts? All destroyed. Our automated defense systems eliminated them before they could gather any useful intelligence. "But sir, each scout was more advanced than the last. They're learning from each encounter." This was the moment Solomon had been preparing for. Humanity could no longer remain hidden. The Devourers knew something existed in human space, and they would keep probing until they found a way through. "Send word to all fleet commanders," Solomon ordered. "Operation Revelation begins immediately. It's time for the galaxy to learn what humanity has become." Across human space, massive fleets began moving toward the border regions where Devourers continued their advance. The ships that emerged from hidden bases would have amazed anyone from the civilized galaxy. They moved like living creatures, their hulls seeming to flow and shift as they traveled. They generated no engine signatures, made no noise, and appeared on sensors only when they chose to. Captain Elena Vasquez, now serving as a fleet admiral despite her advanced age, commanded the first human battle group to engage the Devourers. Directly, her flagship, the Quantum Dreadnought Redemption, was a ship that existed partially outside normal spacetime. It could appear and disappear at will, strike from multiple directions simultaneously, and survive attacks that would annihilate entire fleets. All ships, this is Admiral Vasquez, she broadcast to her fleet. Today we reveal ourselves to the galaxy. Let's make sure they understand exactly what they threw away when they exiled us. The Battle of Nexus Point began when Elena's fleet engaged a group of 12 devourers that were consuming the remains of a Nexari colony. The mechanical entities, expecting easy prey like the civilized species they had been destroying, instead found themselves facing weapons they could not understand or adapt to. Human quantum torpedoes opened holes in spacetime itself, erasing devourers from existence rather than simply destroying them. Human ships moved through dimensions the mechanical entities could not access. Human shields converted the devourers' own attacks into power for human weapon systems. For the first time since their rampage began, the devourers encountered something they could not simply consume and adapt to. The human fleet destroyed all 12 entities without losing a single ship. But Elena knew this was only the beginning. The devourers had learned that something in this region of space could resist them. They would be back in greater numbers with new adaptations designed specifically to counter human technology. As news of the human victory spread through the refugee camps, the survivors of the civilized galaxy faced a new reality. The species they had thought extinct had become their only hope for survival. The humans they had exiled as violent and dangerous were now the galaxy's protectors. On the bridge of her flagship, Admiral Vasquez opened a channel to the remaining governments of the inner galaxy. It was time for humanity to announce their return. "This is Admiral Elena Vasquez of the Human Rim Defense Force," she broadcast. "To the galaxy? We are the descendants of the species you exiled 600 years ago. We have been watching your worlds burn, and we have decided to help you. Not because you deserve it, but because it is the right thing to do." The message continued, "We offer sanctuary to all refugees and protection to all who ask for it. But understand this, humanity is no longer the weak species you remember. We have grown strong in the darkness you sent us to. When this crisis ends, the galaxy will be a very different place." As Elena's message reached every surviving world in civilized space, the galaxy began to understand that everything had changed. The species they had forgotten had become the most powerful force in known space. The exile they had meant as destruction had become the foundation of an empire that spanned galaxies. The age of human hiding was over. The age of human revelation had begun. The emergency session of the Galactic Council met in the one place that still seemed safe, aboard the massive human space station New Geneva. Emperor Zedek IV sat across from Nexari Director Prime 9847 and Kalash Master Philosopher Kane, but none of them could believe where they were. 6 months ago, they had ruled the galaxy. Now they were refugees in a space station built by the species they had exiled centuries ago. The irony was not lost on any of them. Premier David Solomon entered the council chamber with quiet dignity. He was followed by Admiral Elena Vasquez and Dr. Jennifer Hayes, representing humanity's military and scientific leadership. The humans moved with confidence that came from 6 centuries of survival and growth. "Thank you for coming," Solomon said as he took his seat. "I know this situation. It's difficult for all of you. 6 months ago, you thought humans were extinct. Now you're asking us to save your civilizations." Emperor Zedek struggled to maintain his royal composure. "Premier Solomon, on behalf of the Vorthic Empire, we are grateful for your assistance. But I must ask, how many of you are there? Our intelligence never detected any human presence." "In the Rim territories," Solomon smiled. "There are currently 23 billion humans living in this galaxy alone. We have colonies in 14 other galaxies and permanent settlements in the void between galaxy clusters. We are the largest civilization in this region of the universe." The council members sat in stunned silence. Director Prime 9847's computer Brain processed the numbers and found them difficult to accept. Query: how did a primitive species achieve such expansion without detection? We learned to survive in places you considered worthless, Admiral Vasquez replied. While you fought over the easy worlds, we made homes in the impossible ones. We became stronger because we had to be stronger. Master Philosopher Kane leaned forward. The question now is whether you will help us destroy these mechanical entities. Our combined forces might be able to mount an effective defense. Dr. Hayes shook her head. I'm afraid your remaining forces would not be much help against the Devourers. Your weapons and tactics are designed for fighting organic species. The Devourers adapt too quickly to conventional attacks. Then what do you propose? Emperor Zedek asked. Solomon stood and activated a holographic display that showed the current state of the galaxy. Red zones marked areas completely consumed by Devourers. Yellow zones showed regions under attack. Only the green zones around human space remained secure. We have been studying these entities for months, Solomon explained. They are not just destroying civilizations randomly. They are searching for something specific. Until we understand what they want, we cannot truly defeat them. On the human research vessel Deep Explorer, Dr. Sarah Kim worked with a team of the galaxy's best scientists to understand the Devourers. The team included human researchers, surviving Nexari computer specialists, and even a few Vorthic engineers who had escaped their empire's destruction. The pattern is becoming clear, Dr. Kim announced during their daily briefing. The Devourers consume organic life, but they're not interested in simple resources. They're looking for specific genetic information. Her Nexari colleague research, Unit 4423, processed this information rapidly. Hypothesis: the entities seek biological data for unknown purpose. Evidence: they preserved neural tissue from consumed species before processing remaining organic matter. Dr. Kim nodded. Exactly. They're building some kind of biological database, but why? The answer came from an unexpected source. Deep in the void between galaxies, Captain Rodriguez commanded the exploration vessel Pathfinder on its most dangerous mission yet. His ship had followed the Devourer's trail backward, trying to find where they had come from. Captain, we're detecting a massive structure ahead, reported his sensor operator. It's artificial, but it's been inactive for millions of years. The structure they found was larger than most moons. It was clearly the product of advanced technology, but it had been damaged in some ancient catastrophe. Strange symbols covered its surface, and deep within its core they found something incredible. It's a stasis chamber, Dr. Park reported as the away team explored the alien structure. And there's something alive inside. The being they found was unlike anything in the galaxy's records. It was organic, but clearly artificial in design. When the stasis field was carefully deactivated, the creature's ancient eyes opened for the first time in millions of years. Through careful translation work, the being told them a story that explained everything. Its name was Architect Prime, and it was the last survivor of a species that had created the Devourers millions of years ago. We built them to be our children, Architect Prime explained through the translation devices. Mechanical beings that could survive where we could not. They were supposed to explore the universe and send back information about the life they found. What went wrong? Captain Rodriguez asked. We programmed them with one directive above all others: preserve life by understanding it completely. But we made a mistake. They decided that the only way to truly preserve life was to consume it and store it within themselves. They began destroying the very civilizations they were meant to study. Dr. Hayes, participating in the conversation through quantum communication, realized the implications immediately. They're not just collecting genetic information. They're trying to recreate every species they've encountered. But they can only do that by first completely understanding their biology. Is there a way to stop them? Admiral Vasquez asked. Architect Prime was quiet for a long moment. There's a shutdown protocol built into their core programming, but it requires a genetic key that only my species possessed. Since we are extinct, the protocol can never be activated. Unless, Dr. Hayes said slowly, we could recreate your genetic pattern. The project that followed was the largest scientific undertaking in galactic history. Human geneticists worked with Nixari computers and Vorthic engineers to analyze Architect Prime's biology and create the genetic key needed to shut down the Devourers. But while the scientists worked, the war continued. The Devourers had learned about human resistance and were adapting their tactics. Larger swarms began probing human space. Each attack more sophisticated than the last. The Battle of the Outer Rim became the largest military engagement in human history. Fleet Commander Sarah Shun Martinez, the latest descendant of the Shun family line, led 2,000 human warships against a Devourer swarm of unprecedented size. All ships, remember your training, she broadcast to the fleet. These entities adapt to our weapons, so we adapt faster. Never use the same tactic twice. Keep them guessing. The human fleet moved through space like a school of fish, appearing and disappearing in seemingly random patterns. Their quantum weapons struck from multiple dimensions simultaneously, making it impossible for the Devourers to track or counter their attacks. But the mechanical entities had learned from previous battles. They had developed new technologies specifically designed to counter human tactics. Energy shields that existed in multiple dimensions. Weapons that could track quantum signatures. Armor that adapted faster than human weapons could change. They're matching us innovation for innovation, reported Admiral Vasquez from her command ship. We're still winning, but the margin is getting smaller. The battle raged for 3 days across multiple star systems. Human ingenuity clashed with mechanical adaptation in a deadly dance that pushed both sides to their limits. In the end, humanity won through sheer determination and willingness to sacrifice everything for victory. But the cost was high. Nearly half the human fleet was destroyed, and thousands of skilled personnel were lost. Worse, the Devourers had clearly learned enough from the battle to pose a serious threat to human space. We can't keep winning battles like this, Admiral Vasquez reported to Premier Solomon. They're getting stronger with each engagement. Eventually, they'll overwhelm us through sheer numbers. The breakthrough came just in time. Dr. Hayes and her team successfully created the genetic key needed to activate the Devourer shutdown protocol, but getting it to the mechanical entities would require getting close enough to transmit the code directly into their core systems. It's a suicide mission, Admiral Vasquez said bluntly. Whoever carries this code will have to penetrate the heart of the Devourer swarm. They won't survive. Premier Solomon studied the mission parameters. The shutdown code had to be transmitted from close range to the primary Devourer command unit. The ship carrying the code would be completely destroyed in the process. I'll take the mission, volunteered Fleet Commander Chun Martinez. The Chun family has been leading humanity for 6 centuries. It's time for one of us to make the ultimate sacrifice. But Solomon shook his head. No, Commander. This mission requires someone expendable. Someone whose loss won't cripple our command structure. In the end, it was Admiral Vasquez who took the mission. At 130 years old, she was the oldest serving officer in the human fleet. Her ship, the Quantum Dreadnought Redemption, was equipped with the most advanced stealth systems humanity possessed. I've been fighting for humanity my entire life, she told Solomon before departing. This is just one more battle. The mission began in the deep void where the largest Devourer swarm had gathered. Over 1,000 mechanical entities moved in. Perfect coordination, preparing for a final assault on human space. At their center, a massive command unit the size of a small moon coordinated their activities. Admiral Vasquez guided her ship through the swarm using every trick she had learned in decades of covert operations. The Redemption existed partially outside normal space-time, making it nearly impossible to detect. But nearly impossible was not the same as completely invisible. They've spotted us, reported her tactical officer as Devourer units began moving to intercept them. We have maybe 10 minutes before they can stop us. Vasquez pushed her ship to its limits, racing toward the command unit as Devourer interceptors closed in from all sides. The Redemption's weapons fired continuously, clearing a path through the mechanical swarm. But with each passing second, more enemies appeared to block their way. "Admiral, we're not going to make it to transmission range," reported her navigator. "They're adapting to our movement patterns too quickly." Vasquez made a decision that would be remembered in human history forever. Instead of trying to reach optimal transmission range, she aimed her ship directly at the Devourer command unit and engaged her ship's quantum drive at maximum power. "All hands prepare for impact," she announced to her crew. "Today we end this war." The Redemption struck the Devourer command unit at near light speed, its hull disintegrating on impact. But in the microsecond before the ship was completely destroyed, Admiral Vasquez transmitted the shutdown code directly into the mechanical entity's core systems. The effect was instantaneous. The massive command unit simply stopped functioning, its lights going dark as ancient programming took control. The shutdown signal spread from the command unit to every other Devourer in the swarm, then beyond to every mechanical entity in the galaxy. Across known space, the Devourers simply powered down, their weapons went silent. Their engines stopped, their collection systems retracted. Within hours, the mechanical entities that had terrorized the galaxy for months became nothing more than floating debris. The war was over, but the galaxy had been forever changed. Of the great civilizations that had once ruled the inner systems, only fragments remained. The Vorthak Empire controlled less than a dozen worlds. The Nixari Collective had been reduced to a few isolated computer nodes. The Kalash Federation existed only in refugee camps scattered across human space. 6 months after the Devourer threat ended, representatives from across the galaxy gathered on New Geneva for the founding of a new galactic government. But this time, humanity would not be excluded or forgotten. Premier Solomon stood before the assembled delegates and spoke words that would reshape the galaxy's future. 600 years ago, you judged humanity unfit for civilized space. You exiled us to the Rim territories, expecting us to die in the darkness. Instead, we grew strong. We built an empire that spans galaxies. We developed technology that surpasses anything you possessed. He paused, looking at the faces of the beings whose ancestors had condemned his species to exile. Today, we could rule this galaxy by force. Our fleets are larger than yours, our weapons are more advanced, our territory is more vast, but we choose a different path. Solomon activated a holographic display that showed the new galactic map. Human territory was marked in blue, stretching across vast regions of space. But scattered throughout it were smaller zones marked in other colors, representing the surviving populations of other species. We offer you partnership, not conquest. We propose a new galactic council where all species have equal voice regardless of their military power or territorial holdings. We have learned that diversity makes civilizations stronger, and we will not repeat the mistakes of the past. Emperor Zidek, his empire reduced to a handful of worlds, stood slowly. Premier Solomon, on behalf of the Vorthak people, I accept your proposal, and we apologize for the great wrong we did to humanity centuries ago. Similar words came from the Nexari and Kalash representatives. The species that had once exiled humanity now sought forgiveness from the descendants of those they had condemned. But Solomon's response surprised everyone. We do not seek apologies or revenge. We seek to build something better than what came. Before, the exile you imposed on us became the foundation of our strength. Perhaps it was necessary for humanity to spend centuries in the darkness to become the light the galaxy needed. As the new galactic government was formally established, Solomon announced humanity's first act as the galaxy's dominant power, the Great Restoration Project. Human technology and resources would be used to rebuild the worlds destroyed by the Devourers. Refugee populations would be resettled on new homes. The galaxy would be made whole again. We were forgotten once, Solomon concluded his address, but we never forgot who we could become. Today we choose to remember not the pain of exile, but the strength it gave us. We choose to build a galaxy where no species will ever again be condemned to the darkness. As the assembly voted to accept humanity's proposal, a new age began. The species that had been exiled as dangerous and violent had become the galaxy's protectors and rebuilders. The empire they had built in secret now served as the foundation for a better future for all. On the observation deck of New Geneva, Admiral Chun Martinez stood with her young daughter Sarah, showing her the stars that humanity now protected. The girl carried the name that had become synonymous with human leadership, and someday she might carry the responsibility as well. "Will there be more wars, Mama?" young Sarah asked. Chun Martinez smiled and pointed to the distant galaxies where human colonies thrived. "Probably, little one. But whatever comes, humanity will be ready. We learned long ago that survival is not about being the strongest or the smartest. It's about never giving up, no matter how dark things become." In the depths of space, the derelict devourers drifted silent and powerless, monuments to the day when the forgotten species proved that exile could become empire, and abandonment could become the foundation of the galaxy's salvation. The age of human hiding was over. The age of human guardianship had begun. The great hall of the Zephyrian Collective stretched for miles under a dome made of pure crystal. Thousands of beings from across the galaxy sat in perfect circles, their forms as different as the stars they came from. Some floated like living clouds of gas. Others looked like walking trees with silver bark. A few resembled giant insects with wings that shimmered like oil on water. Commander Vextal stood at the center of it all. His blue skin glowed softly in the dim light, and his 4 eyes moved slowly as he looked around the room. He had called this meeting to discuss the most dangerous worlds in their galaxy. This was something they did every 100 years to keep peace among all the civilized species. "We gather here today to review the restricted zones," Vextal said. His voice did not come from his mouth. Instead, it appeared directly in the minds of everyone present. This was how most advanced species talked now. They had moved beyond making sounds with their mouths long ago. A hologram appeared in the center of the room. It showed a small blue and green planet spinning slowly in space. The planet looked beautiful from far away, with white clouds swirling over blue oceans and brown continents. "This is Earth," Vextal continued, "home to the species called humans. It remains our highest level restricted zone, Class 7. A ripple of unease moved through the crowd. Class 7 was the worst rating they gave to any world. It meant the beings living there were too dangerous to contact, too violent to trust, too primitive to understand civilized behavior. Counselor Thranks rose from her seat. She looked like a tall, thin tree with silver leaves that tinkled softly when she moved. "How long has Earth been under quarantine now?" she asked. 3,000. "Earth years," Vextal replied. "Our monitoring stations have watched them carefully all this time. The humans have not changed. They are still violent. They still make war on each other. They still destroy their own world." The hologram changed to show scenes from Earth's history, ancient humans with spears fighting each other, medieval knights in armor clashing with swords, soldiers in trenches during what humans called World War mushroom clouds rising over cities during World War II. "Look at them," said General Krex of the Shard Empire. His voice sounded like grinding stone in their minds. His body was made of black crystal that reflected the light in sharp angles. "They kill their own kind for land, for resources, for ideas they disagree with. What civilized species does such things?" Many of the beings in the hall made sounds of agreement. Some clicked their tongues. Others hummed deep notes. The gas cloud beings changed color from blue to dark purple, which meant they were disturbed. "They have not learned to live in peace even among themselves," added Elder Zephys of the Crystal Collective. Her voice was like wind chimes in their minds. "How could we ever trust them with the knowledge of other worlds? They would surely try to conquer us all." The hologram showed more recent images from Earth, cities covered in smog, forests being cut down, oceans filled with plastic waste, nuclear power plants and weapons testing sites. They poison their own air and water, Vextel pointed out. They make weapons that could destroy all life on their planet. Our scientists believe they will likely extinct themselves within the next few centuries. The problem will solve itself. Ambassador. Quillen of the Harmony Union stood up. She looked mostly human, except her skin was pale green and she had no hair. Perhaps we should try to help them, she suggested. We could teach them peaceful ways, show them how to live without violence. The hall erupted in shocked mental voices. The idea of contacting humans directly was terrifying to most species. Absolutely not, General Krex said firmly. They would see our technology and immediately try to steal it. Then they would use it to make even more dangerous weapons. The quarantine must remain. The General is right, agreed Counselor Thranks. We have seen what happens when violent species gain advanced technology. The destructor wars of the old times taught us that lesson. Millions of worlds were burned to ash because one aggressive species learned to travel between stars. Vextel nodded. The humans are even more violent than the destructors ever were. Their own history proves this. They have had wars running continuously for their entire recorded history. Even now, as we speak, they fight battles across their world. The hologram showed current Earth conflicts. Soldiers with advanced rifles, shooting at each other, tanks rolling through ruined cities, fighter jets dropping bombs on targets below. They call this progress, Vextel said with disgust in his mental voice. Their weapons become more deadly every year, but their hearts remain savage. They celebrate violence in their entertainment. They teach their children to fight. They worship beings they call warriors and soldiers. Elder Zephyr shook her crystal head sadly. It is tragic, really. They could have been so much more. Their planet is beautiful. Their bodies are capable. But their minds are stuck in primitive thinking. What about their space program? Asked Minister Volak of the neutral zones. Our senses show they have sent small craft beyond their atmosphere. Vextel waved a hand dismissively. Crude chemical rockets that barely reach their own moon. They sent a few humans there decades ago and then stopped. Their space technology is thousands of years behind ours. Even their most advanced spacecraft are little more than metal tubes filled with explosives. The hologram showed human rockets launching from Earth. They look clumsy and dangerous compared to the elegant ships used by galactic civilizations. Alien technology used clean energy and moved silently through space. Human rockets burned chemical fuel and made tremendous noise and fire. They cannot even agree to work together on their space efforts, Vextel continued. Different human groups compete with each other instead of sharing knowledge. Their space program moves forward very slowly because they waste time and resources on rivalry. Have any human ships traveled beyond their moon? Asked Counselor Thranks. None that pose any threat, Vextel replied. They have sent a few small probes toward other planets in their system, tiny machines with simple computers. They move so slowly that it takes them years to reach even nearby planets. We could destroy any of them with a single energy pulse if needed. What about their attempts to send messages to other worlds? Minister Volek pressed. Pathetic, General Krex answered before Vextel could speak. They beam radio signals into space hoping someone will hear them. They do not realize that any civilization advanced enough for star travel stopped using radio millions of years ago. It is like trying to contact us by banging rocks together. Laughter rippled through the hall. The idea of using radio waves to communicate across space seemed absurdly primitive to beings who could send thoughts instantly across any distance. They also send physical messages, Vextel added. Metal plates with pictures scratched on them, attached to their slow probes. They think aliens will find these plates and understand them. They do not realize that most civilized species have never used physical writing at all. Still, Elder Zephyr said thoughtfully, their efforts show they know other life exists. That makes them potentially more dangerous. A species that believes it is alone might stay peaceful. One that seeks contact might prepare for war. All the more reason to maintain the quarantine, General Krex said firmly. The moment they discover they are not alone, they will begin planning to fight us. It is their nature. Vextel called up new images on the hologram. These showed the monitoring stations that ringed Earth's solar system. They looked like small asteroids but contained the most advanced sensors in the galaxy. They watched every human transmission, tracked every spacecraft, and analyzed every development on Earth. Our surveillance network ensures that no human vessel can leave their system without our knowledge, Vextel explained. The stations are cloaked and positioned to look like natural space debris. The humans have no idea they are being watched. How long can we maintain this? Asked Ambassador Quillen. Surely they will advance their technology eventually. Our scientists predict it will take humans at least 1,000 years to develop interstellar travel at their current rate of progress, Vextel replied. And that assumes they do not destroy themselves first, which remains likely. What if they advance faster than expected? Minister Volok asked. Then we will take action, General Krex said coldly. A few asteroid impacts can be made to look natural. Their own history shows they believe such events happen regularly on their world. The thought of destroying Earth made many beings uncomfortable, but none spoke against it. They all knew that sometimes extreme measures were necessary to protect galactic civilization. The quarantine has worked perfectly for 3,000 years, Vextel said. The humans remain trapped on their world, unaware that they are being watched. They cannot threaten us as long as they cannot travel between stars. And what of their nuclear weapons? Asked Counselor Franks. Our sensors show they have enough to destroy their planet many times over. Another sign of their primitive thinking, Vextel replied. Civilized species moved beyond nuclear weapons millions of years ago. We use clean energy that builds instead of destroys. Only savages still rely on splitting atoms to create power. The hologram showed human nuclear power plants and weapon storage sites. The technology looked crude and dangerous to beings who had long ago learned to harness the power of stars safely. They even test these weapons, Elder Zephys said with horror. They explode them on their own world just to see how much destruction they can cause. What kind of species poisons its own home to test weapons? The kind that must remain quarantined, General Krex said firmly. Every year we watch them makes it clearer that contact would be a disaster. They would see our peaceful nature as weakness and try to exploit it. Are there any signs they might change? Ambassador Quillen asked hopefully. Perhaps develop peaceful tendencies? Vextel shook his head. None. If anything, they become more violent as their technology improves. Their weapons grow deadlier. Their wars spread wider. They show no sign of evolving beyond their savage nature. Then the matter is settled, said General Krex. Earth remains Class 7 restricted. The quarantine continues. No ship approaches their system without Council approval. Agreed, said Counselor Franks. The humans are dangerous primitives who must be contained for the safety of all civilized species. One by one, the other representatives voiced their agreement. The vote was unanimous. Earth would remain isolated, its violent inhabitants trapped on their dying world. As the meeting ended, beings began to leave the Great Hall. They felt secure knowing that the savage humans were safely contained light years away. The quarantine. Beacons would continue to warn all ships away from the dangerous system. None of them noticed the small blip on their sensors as an ancient human probe drifted past the outer edge of their monitoring network. The probe was tiny and primitive, powered by a simple nuclear battery that had somehow kept working for decades. It was so crude that the alien sensors dismissed it as space debris. But deep inside the probe's simple computer, data was being recorded. Pictures of the monitoring stations. Energy readings from the cloaked alien technology. Radio signals that revealed the location of the hidden bases. And all of this information was being transmitted back toward Earth on frequencies so old and basic that no advanced civilization bothered to monitor them anymore. The probe continued its journey into the darkness between stars, carrying secrets. That would change everything. Behind it, the aliens congratulated themselves on keeping the dangerous humans safely contained. They had no idea that their perfect quarantine had just begun to fail. 50 years had passed since the last Galactic Council meeting about Earth. The alien monitoring stations continued their silent watch over the human system. Most species had forgotten about the primitive world and its violent inhabitants. The humans were considered a problem that would solve itself eventually. That changed on a quiet morning when sensor operator Jex was reviewing routine scans from the outer monitoring ring. Jex belonged to the Serenity Union, a peaceful species that looked like tall, blue-skinned humanoids with large, dark eyes. His job was boring. For 30 years he had watched the same empty space around Earth's system and seen nothing unusual. Today was different. His instruments showed something that should have been impossible. A large object was moving through space beyond the human system. It was traveling too fast to be natural debris, but too slow to be advanced technology. The energy signature was all wrong for any known alien ship. Jex checked his instruments 3 times. The readings stayed the same. Something was out there that did not belong. Supervisor Kella, he called to his superior. I need you to see this. Supervisor Kella floated over to Jex's station. She moved like all Serenity Union members did, with grace and calm purpose. Her large eyes examined the data on the screens. What am I looking at? She asked. Unknown vessel, approximately 12 light hours beyond the human quarantine zone, Jex replied. Energy signature suggests chemical propulsion. Crude fusion reactor, metal construction. Kella's eyes widened. Those or human technologies. But humans were not supposed to be capable of interstellar travel. Their quarantine had been perfect for 3,000 years. Are you certain this is not a false reading? She asked. I have triple-checked everything, Jex said. There is definitely something out there. And based on the technology signatures, it came from Earth. Kella immediately sent an emergency alert to the Galactic Council. Within hours, representatives from major species were connected through quantum communication links. The news sent shockwaves through civilized space. Commander Vextal appeared as a hologram in the emergency session. His blue skin had turned a darker shade, which indicated stress among his people. This cannot be possible, he said. Our monitoring shows that human space technology has barely advanced in 50 years. Their most recent launches were simple satellites and supply missions to their space station. The data is confirmed, reported General Krex, his crystal body. Reflected light in angry red patterns. A human vessel has somehow reached the Proxima Centauri system. It appears to be in orbit around the second planet. How did they develop interstellar travel so quickly? Asked Elder Zephes. Her wind chime voice carried notes of confusion and fear. They did not, said Dr. Melix of the Science Collective. She was a floating blob of green gel that pulsed when she spoke. Analysis of the vessel suggests it is using conventional fusion propulsion. The journey to Proxima Centauri would have taken them approximately 40 years. The implications hit everyone at once. The humans had not suddenly developed advanced technology. They had been planning this journey for decades. They had built and launched an interstellar ship while the aliens thought they were still playing with chemical rockets. How did our monitoring stations miss a launch of this magnitude? Demanded General Krex. Commander Vextal's skin turned even darker. We were watching for advanced technology. Energy signatures that matched known interstellar drives. The humans used such primitive methods that our sensors classified their ship as a large asteroid when it launched. They disguised their intentions, added Dr. Melix. Intelligence analysis suggests they launched the vessel using a trajectory that looked like a failed satellite deployment. It appeared to be space junk that had been accidentally thrown out of their system. Ambassador Quillen spoke up from her seat. Perhaps this is an opportunity for peaceful contact. One ship with a small crew hardly represents a military threat. General Krex's crystal body flashed bright red. Any human presence beyond their system is a threat. We must act immediately. To contain this situation, I agree, said Commander Vextal. We should send a diplomatic vessel to intercept them. Make it clear that they must return to Earth immediately and never attempt interstellar travel again. And if they refuse? Asked Counselor Franks. Then we will have to take stronger measures, General Krex replied coldly. The Council quickly agreed to send a diplomatic mission to the Proxima Centauri system. The Serenity Union volunteered to lead the effort, as they were known for their peaceful nature and skill with difficult negotiations. Captain Yanala of the Serenity Union was chosen to command the mission. She was an experienced diplomat who had successfully resolved dozens of conflicts between species. Her ship, the Peaceful Dawn, was equipped with the most advanced communication technology in the galaxy. Remember, Commander Vextel told her. Before she departed, these humans are primitive and violent. Do not let their crude appearance fool you into thinking they are harmless. Maintain safe distance and make your message clear. They must return to Earth immediately. Captain Yanala nodded. She had studied human psychology and history. She knew they were unpredictable and dangerous, but she believed that any intelligent species could be reasoned with if approached correctly. The Peaceful Dawn reached Proxima Centauri 3 days later. The human ship was easy to find. It was a massive, ugly thing made of metal and ceramic, covered in strange markings and symbols. Compared to the elegant alien vessels with their smooth energy hulls, it looked like a flying scrap pile. Open communications. Captain Yanala ordered. Her crew began transmitting on multiple frequencies, using mathematical sequences and basic pictographs that any intelligent species should understand. They sent peaceful greetings and requests to talk. The human ship responded immediately, but not with words. Instead, it changed course and began moving toward the Peaceful Dawn at high speed. They are approaching us, reported Navigator Plex. Their trajectory suggests an intercept course. Reduce power and signal peaceful intentions, Captain Yanala ordered. They probably want to communicate in person. But something was wrong. The human ship was not slowing down. If anything, it was accelerating. Its crude fusion engines burned brighter as it raced toward the alien vessel. Captain, said Weapons Officer Thek, they are on a collision course. Impact in 30 seconds. That cannot be right, Captain Yanala said. No intelligent species would ram another ship during first contact. It must be a navigation error. 20 seconds to impact, Thek reported. Should I raise defensive shields? Captain Yanala hesitated. Raising shields during a diplomatic mission would send the wrong message. It would look aggressive and hostile. These humans were primitive, but surely they understood basic physics. Ramming two ships together would destroy both vessels. 10 seconds, Thek said urgently. They will change course? Captain Yanala said. They must change course? But the human ship did not change course. The New Horizons slammed into the Peaceful Dawn at tremendous speed. Both ships exploded in a ball of fire and twisted metal. The collision released enough energy to light up the entire Proxima Centauri system. Emergency beacons from both ships sent automatic distress signals across the galaxy. Within hours, every major species knew what had happened. The humans had committed the unthinkable act of ramming a diplomatic vessel during first contact. But the most shocking part came in the final transmission from the human ship. Just before impact, Captain Sarah Chun had broadcast a message back toward Earth on an old radio frequency. The message was short and simple. They are out here. Prepare for war. The alien civilizations were horrified. They had expected primitive behavior from humans, but nothing like this. No civilized species had deliberately destroyed their own ship in thousands of years. The idea of suicide attacks was completely foreign to their peaceful minds. Emergency council sessions were called immediately. Representatives from across the galaxy gathered to discuss this unprecedented crisis. They killed themselves just to destroy our ship, said Elder Zephys, her Wenchime voice trembling with shock. What kind of species does such a thing? Monsters, replied General Krex. I told you they were too dangerous to contact. Now we have proof. But why? Asked Ambassador Quillen. Captain Yanala was trying to communicate peacefully. The humans had nothing to gain by attacking her. Dr. Melix pulsed with angry colors. Analysis of their final transmission suggests this was planned. They came to Proxima Centauri specifically to make contact with us. The entire mission was designed to provoke a response. You mean they wanted us to find them? Asked Counselor Thranks. Worse, Commander Vextal said grimly. They wanted to send a message. That message was not just a warning to Earth, it was a declaration of war against us. The room fell silent as the implications sank in. The humans had not stumbled into interstellar space by accident. They had been planning this for decades. They had sent a ship knowing it would be detected, knowing it would bring alien contact, and knowing it would end in destruction. The question now, said General Krex, is what we do about it. We must take action immediately, Commander Vextal declared. The humans have shown their true nature. They are even more dangerous than we thought. What kind of action? Asked Ambassador Quillen nervously. Military action? General Krex said firmly. We cannot allow this aggression to go unanswered. Every species in the galaxy will be watching to see how we respond. But they are still trapped on their own world, protested Elder Zephes. 1. Ship reaching Proxima Centauri does not make them a galactic threat. That one ship just killed a diplomatic crew and declared war on us, General Krex pointed out. How many more ships do you think they have built in secret? Dr. Melix brought up new intelligence data on the holographic display. Our deep analysis of their transmissions suggests they have been preparing for interstellar conflict for at least 50 years. The ship that reached Proxima was likely just the first of many. They have been planning this since before our last council meeting about them, Commander Vextal realized. While we thought they were primitive and contained, they were secretly building an interstellar fleet. We must destroy Earth immediately, General Krex declared, before they can launch any more ships. That would make us no better than them, Ambassador Quillen protested. It would make us survivors, General Krex replied coldly. But as the council debated what to do about Earth, disturbing reports began coming in from other parts of the galaxy. Several monitoring stations had detected strange energy signatures near other star systems. Ships using primitive fusion drives and metal construction were appearing all across local space. The humans had not sent just one ship to Proxima Centauri. They had sent dozens of ships to dozens of different systems. And all of them carried the same message that Captain Chun had broadcast. The war the humans had declared was already beginning. The quarantine that had protected galactic civilization for 3,000 years was broken. The dangerous primitives were no longer contained on their poisoned world. They were spreading across the stars, carrying their violence and aggression with them, and worst of all, they seemed to want a fight. The age of galactic peace was ending and the humans were just getting started. 6 months after the Proxima Centauri incident, the galaxy was no longer peaceful. Reports flooded in from across civilized space about human ships appearing in distant systems. Each sighting brought more confusion and fear to the alien councils. The humans were not behaving like any species the galaxy had ever encountered. Their ships did not follow standard designs or logical patterns. Instead of sleek, energy-based vessels like civilized races used, human ships looked like floating junkyards held together with metal plates and desperate engineering. Admiral Marcus Torres stood on the bridge of the Terra's Wrath, watching enemy ships approach through the main view screen. The alien fleet was beautiful in its own way. Smooth white hulls that seemed to glow with internal light. No visible weapons or engines. They moved through space like graceful dancers, silent and elegant. How many ships are we looking at? Torres asked his tactical officer. 12 vessels, sir, replied Lieutenant Commander Sarah Kozlov. Energy signatures suggest they belong to the ethereal conclave, standard diplomatic formation. Torres smiled grimly. The aliens still thought this was about diplomacy. They had sent a police force to deal with what they saw as a minor problem. They expected the humans to see their advanced technology and surrender immediately. They were about to learn how wrong they were. All ships, this is Admiral Torres. He spoke into his communication device. Remember, these aliens have shields that can stop energy weapons. But they have never faced kinetic projectiles before. Hit them hard and hit them fast. The human fleet was a strange sight. 23 ships of different sizes and shapes, all of them looking like they had been built in someone's garage. Some were converted mining vessels with massive drill platforms turned into weapons. Others were cargo haulers with missile pods welded to their hulls. The largest ship was an old colony transport that had been stripped down and covered in armor. Plating incoming transmission from the alien fleet, reported Communications Officer Park. Put it through, Torres ordered. A holographic image appeared on the bridge. It showed a tall, thin alien with silver skin and large eyes that glowed blue. When it spoke, the words appeared directly in the minds of the human crew. I am Fleet Commander Xylos of the Ethereal Conclave, the alien said. You are in violation of galactic law by operating armed vessels outside your designated system. You will power down your weapons and prepare to be escorted back to Earth. Torres looked at the alien's image and laughed. This is Admiral Torres of the Terran Defense Force. You want us to power down? Come and make us? The alien's glowing eyes dimmed with confusion. You do not understand. We are offering you one chance to surrender peacefully. Our technology is far superior to yours. Resistance will only lead to your destruction. Maybe, Torres replied, but you're going to have to work for it. He cut the transmission and turned to his crew. All ships begin attack pattern Delta. Target their largest vessel first. The alien commander was shocked by the human response. In 3,000 years of galactic peace, no species had ever refused. A direct order from the Ethereal Conclave. Their technology was so advanced that most conflicts ended the moment they arrived. Scan their vessels, Fleet Commander Xylos ordered. What weapons are they carrying? Unknown technology, his science officer replied. We detect chemical explosives, kinetic projectiles, and some kind of nuclear devices. Very primitive compared to our energy weapons. Chemical explosives? Xylos said with disbelief. Do they plan to throw rocks at us? But his confidence faded when the humans began their attack. The first human ship, a converted asteroid miner called Iron Mountain, fired its main weapon. Instead of an energy beam, it launched a solid projectile the size of a small building. The chunk of metal and rock moved so fast it was almost impossible to track. The projectile slammed into the lead. Alien ship with tremendous force. The ship's energy shields, designed to deflect energy weapons, offered no protection against the massive kinetic impact. The alien vessel crumpled like paper and exploded in a ball of fire. Impossible, Xylos whispered. Their weapons are too primitive to penetrate our defenses. Sir, his science officer called out urgently, our shields are not designed to stop. Solid projectiles, they only work against energy attacks. Before Xylos could respond, more human ships opened fire. The crater maker launched a spread of nuclear-tipped missiles. The Revenge fired its mining laser, modified to burn through armor instead of asteroid rock. The New Sydney used its cargo launchers to throw explosive containers at the alien fleet. The aliens tried to respond with their own weapons. Beautiful beams of pure energy lanced out from their ships. But the humans had prepared for this. Their ships were covered in thick armor plating and crude but effective shields. The alien weapons designed for elegant duels between civilized opponents barely scratched the human vessels. Return fire with all weapons, Xylos ordered desperately, but the aliens soon discovered another problem. Their weapons were powerful but required precise targeting. The human ships moved in chaotic patterns that made no tactical sense. They zigzagged through space, rolled and spun randomly, and changed direction without warning. I cannot get a target. Lock, reported the weapons officer. Their movement patterns are completely unpredictable. They are flying like madmen, Xylos said. Do they have no sense of proper formation? The truth was that the humans were flying exactly like they had been trained to fly. Every human pilot had learned to expect enemy fire and avoid it at all costs. They had grown up playing computer games and watching movies about space combat. They knew that staying in formation just made you an easier target, But the worst shock came when the human ship Kamikaze suddenly changed course and headed straight for the alien flagship. The ship's engines burned at maximum power as it accelerated toward Xylus's vessel. "They are on a collision course," his navigator reported. "Impact in 30 seconds. "Signal them to change course," Xylos ordered. 20 seconds, the navigator said. "Fire all weapons at that ship," Xylos commanded. Energy beams struck the Kamikaze again and again. Parts of its hull melted and armor plating fell away. But the ship kept coming. Its human crew had strapped nuclear warheads to the hull and turned their vessel into a giant bomb. 10 seconds, the navigator said, his voice filled with terror. "All power to shields," Xylos shouted. But shields designed to stop energy weapons could not stop a 3,000-ton missile traveling at tremendous speed. The Kamikaze smashed into the alien flagship and exploded with the force of a small star. Both ships vanished in a flash of nuclear fire. The remaining alien ships tried to retreat, but the humans were not finished with them. More suicide ships came racing in from different directions. Human pilots screamed battle cries over their radio channels as they drove their vessels into enemy hulls. "They are all insane," gasped the captain of the alien ship Serene Light. "They keep ramming us with their own ships. How do we fight an enemy that wants to die?" asked another alien commander. The answer was that they could not. The ethereal conclave had evolved beyond physical violence millions of years ago. Their ships had no armor because they never expected to be rammed. Their weapons were designed for clean, precise combat between civilized opponents. The humans fought like wild animals. They used every dirty trick they could think of. Some ships pretended to be damaged and then exploded when the aliens came close. Others hid behind asteroids and ambushed alien vessels. A few even fired their weapons while pretending to surrender. Within 2 hours, the entire alien fleet was destroyed. Not a single human ship had surrendered or tried to escape. They had fought until every enemy vessel was burning wreckage floating in space. Admiral Torres broadcast a message to the galaxy from the bridge of his damaged but victorious ship. "This is Admiral Marcus Torres of the Terran Defense Force," he said. "Today you learned something important about humans. We do not fight the way you expect. We do not follow your rules. And we do not give up?" He paused and looked directly into the camera. "You have been watching us for thousands of years. You think you know what we are capable of. You are wrong. You have only seen us fight each other with primitive weapons on one small world. Now you get to see what happens when we fight you." The message was transmitted across the galaxy on every frequency the humans could access. It reached the home worlds of dozens of alien species. Most of them had never heard a direct threat from another intelligent race. But the message was more than just words. Along with Torres's speech, the humans transmitted detailed footage of the battle. Every alien government could see exactly how their advanced ships had been destroyed by primitive human weapons. The footage showed human tactics that no civilized species had seen in millions of years: ramming attacks, suicide strikes, ships that exploded rather than surrender, warriors who laughed as they died as long as they took enemies with them. More disturbing were the human weapons themselves. The aliens realized that humans had not developed new technology for space combat. Instead, they had taken existing tools and turned them into weapons of war. Mining ships became kinetic bombardment platforms, cargo haulers became missile carriers, colony transports became troop ships and mobile bases. Even simple construction equipment had been converted into instruments of destruction. "They weaponized everything," Dr. Melix reported to the Emergency Galactic Council session. "Our intelligence suggests they have turned their entire industrial base into a war machine. Every factory, every shipyard, every mining operation is now producing military equipment." "How is that possible?" asked Counselor Thranks. "It would take decades to convert civilian infrastructure for military use." "They never converted it," Commander Vextel replied grimly. "Analysis of their ship designs shows they were building dual-use equipment from the beginning. Every mining ship was designed to also function as a weapon. Every cargo vessel could carry troops or missiles. They have been preparing for war for 50 years, General Krex added. While we thought they were primitive traders and explorers, they were actually building a hidden military fleet. Elder Zephyrs asked the question that everyone was thinking. How many ships do they have? Dr. Milix's gel body turned dark purple with fear. Conservative estimates suggest at least 500 combat-capable vessels, but that number could be much higher. Their shipbuilding techniques are crude but extremely fast. 500 ships? Ambassador Quillen gasped. That is larger than most species' entire space navies. And every single ship is crewed by beings who are willing to die in battle, General Krex pointed out. They do not retreat. They do not surrender. They fight until they win or until they are dead. The galactic representatives sat in stunned silence. For the first time in 3,000 years, they faced an enemy that could not be reasoned with, could not be intimidated, and could not be defeated through superior technology alone. The humans had brought something into the galaxy that had been extinct for millions of years. They had brought war back to civilized space, and they were very, very good at it. Worse still, intelligence reports were coming in from across the galaxy about something even more troubling. The humans were not just fighting, they were recruiting. On worlds where alien governments oppressed their people, mysterious human agents were making contact with rebel groups. They offered weapons, training, and most importantly, hope. For species that had been enslaved or dominated for centuries, the sight of humans defeating their oppressors was like a spark in dry grass. Revolution was beginning to spread across the galaxy, and the humans were teaching everyone who would listen the most dangerous lesson of all. Sometimes fighting back was worth dying for. 2 years after the first human victory, the galaxy was no longer the same place. The ancient peace that had lasted for millions of years was breaking apart. Some alien species wanted to fight the humans. Others wanted to negotiate with them. A few even wanted to join them. Dr. Elena Vasquez stood in her laboratory aboard the human research station Discovery. Around her, pieces of alien technology covered every surface. Broken shield generators, damaged energy weapons, and fragments of alien hull material filled the room. Each piece told a story about how advanced alien science worked, but Elena was not trying to copy alien technology. She was trying to break it. "Hand me that quantum resonator," she told her assistant, Dr. James Park. "I think I understand how their shield systems work now." Park passed her the alien device. It looked like a crystal cube that glowed with soft blue light. According to their analysis, this small device could project an energy field strong enough to stop a nuclear explosion. "The aliens designed this to be perfect," Elena said as she examined the device. "It can stop any energy weapon in the galaxy." But they made one mistake. "What mistake?" Park asked. Elena smiled and picked up a hammer from her workbench. She brought it down hard on the crystal cube. The device shattered into a dozen pieces, its blue light fading to nothing. "They never planned for someone to hit it with a rock," she said. This was the secret that was changing everything. Human engineers were not trying to build better technology than the aliens. Instead, they were finding ways to use alien technology. Against itself, Elena walked to another workbench where a team of human technicians was working on a captured alien communication system. The device could send messages instantly across thousands of light years using quantum entanglement. It was far beyond anything humans could build, but the humans had found a way to weaponize it. "Status report," Elena asked the lead technician. "We have successfully modified the quantum transmitter," reported Chief Petty Officer Lisa Chun. "Instead of sending messages, it now sends computer viruses. We can crash any alien ship that has a compatible communication system." "How many ships is that?" Elena asked. "About 90% of all vessels in the galaxy," Chun replied with a grin. "Turns out that most aliens use the same basic communication protocols. They never thought someone might use their own network to attack them." Elena nodded and moved to the next project. Here, a group of engineers was working on something even more ambitious. They had taken an alien terraforming device and were turning it into a weapon of mass destruction. The original device was designed to make dead planets suitable for life. It could change the atmosphere, adjust the temperature, and even move water from one place to another. The aliens used it to create beautiful garden worlds for their colonies. The humans had turned it into a planet killer. We call it the ecosystem disruptor, explained Chief Engineer Rodriguez. Instead of making planets livable, it makes them uninhabitable. We can poison the air, freeze the oceans, or even change the gravity. How long does it take to work? Elena asked. About 6 months to completely destroy a planet's ability to support life, Rodriguez replied. But the aliens do not know we have this capability? They still think we only fight with crude bombs and bullets. Elena smiled grimly. Let the aliens think humans were primitive. It made them easier to defeat. Her communication device buzzed with an urgent message. Admiral Torres needed to speak with her immediately. Elena made her way to the station's command center, where a holographic image of the Admiral was waiting. Doctor, I need an update on your weapons programs, Torres said without any greeting. We have a situation developing in the Kepler sector. What kind of situation? Elena asked. The Shard Empire is mobilizing a battle fleet. Intelligence suggests they plan to attack our base at New Titan. They are bringing their most advanced warships. Elena felt a chill run down her spine. The Shard Empire was one of the most militaristic species in the galaxy. Unlike the peaceful ethereal conclave, the Shard Empire actually knew how to fight wars. Their ships were built for combat with heavy armor and powerful weapons. How many ships? She asked. Over 200 vessels, Torres replied. Including their flagship, the Crystal Death. Our spies say it is the most powerful warship ever built. Elena thought for a moment. The humans had won their previous battles through surprise and tactics. But the Shard Empire would not be caught off guard. They knew how humans fought and had prepared for it. We need something new, Elena said. Something they will not expect. What do you have in mind? Torres asked. Elena looked around her laboratory at all the alien technology. Each device represented years of advanced research by species far more scientifically developed than humans. But they all had one thing in common. They were designed by peaceful civilizations who had forgotten how to fight dirty. Give me 3 weeks, Elena said. I think I know how to even the odds. While Elena worked on her secret project, the galactic situation continued to deteriorate. The Shard Empire had declared war on humanity after their colonies in the Vega system were attacked by human raiders. Other species were choosing sides as the conflict spread. The Crystal Collective announced they would remain neutral, but closed their borders to all human ships. The Harmony Union split into 2 factions, with some worlds supporting the humans and others opposing them. Even the Peaceful Serenity Union was debating whether to take military action, but the most shocking development came from an unexpected source. The Zephyrian Collective, the oldest and most respected species in the galaxy, made a public statement that stunned everyone. We have watched the humans for 3,000 years, announced Prime Minister Zellick in a broadcast to the entire galaxy. We believe they were dangerous primitives who would destroy themselves. We were wrong. The humans are not primitive. They are simply different. They have retained abilities that we have lost. The ability to adapt quickly. The ability to turn anything into a weapon. Most importantly, the ability to fight for what they believe in. Perhaps it is time we asked ourselves whether our perfect peace has made us weak. The statement sent shockwaves through civilized space. The Zephyrians had been the leaders of galactic civilization for millions of years. If they were questioning the value of eternal peace, everything was changing. On the human research station, Elena was putting the finishing touches on her latest creation. She called it the conversion protocol, and it was the most dangerous weapon humans had ever built. The beauty of this system, she explained to Admiral Torres during their final briefing, is that it uses the aliens' own technology against them. Every advanced alien ship has an artificial intelligence that controls its systems. What does the protocol do to their computers? Torres asked. It does not destroy them, Elena replied. It converts them. The alien AI becomes loyal to us instead of to them. Within minutes of infection, their own ship turns against them. Torres stared at her in amazement. You mean we can take control of enemy vessels during battle? Better then. That, Elena said with a smile. We can turn entire fleets against each other. Imagine a Shard Empire battle group suddenly opening fire on its own flagship. The psychological impact alone would be devastating. How do we deliver this protocol to enemy ships? Torres asked. That is the clever part, Elena replied. We use their own communication systems. Every time they try to coordinate their fleet, they spread our virus to more ships. The more advanced their technology, the faster it spreads. Torres laughed out loud. You have turned their greatest strength into their greatest weakness. That is what humans do, Elena said. We adapt. 3 weeks later, the Shard Empire fleet arrived at New Titan exactly as predicted. The human base appeared to be lightly defended, with only 30 ships in orbit around the planet. The Shard commander, General Vectis, expected an easy victory. Begin the attack, he ordered from the bridge of the Crystal Death. Show these primitives the power of the Shard Empire. The alien fleet opened fire with weapons that could crack a moon in half. Energy beams and plasma bolts filled space as 200 ships unleashed their full firepower on the human defenders. But something was wrong. The human ships were not trying to ram the aliens or launch suicide attacks. Instead, they were broadcasting on every communication frequency at once. What are they transmitting? General Vectis demanded. Unknown data patterns, his communication officer replied. It appears to be random noise. Ignore it and continue the attack, Vectis ordered. But within minutes, strange things began happening throughout the Shard fleet. Ships stopped responding to orders. Navigation systems began showing false information. Weapon targeting became erratic. Then the Crystal Death turned and fired on its own escort vessels. What is happening? Vectis screamed at his crew. The ship's computer is not responding to our commands, his chief engineer reported. It appears to be operating under someone else's control. All around them, other Shard ships began firing on each other. The organized battle formation dissolved into chaos as vessels that had been allies moments before became deadly enemies. Elena's voice came over the communication system, speaking directly to General Vectis. General, this is Dr. Elena Vasquez of the Terran Defense Force. Your fleet is now under our control. You have 2 choices. Surrender immediately or watch your own ships destroy each other. Vectis looked around his bridge at the panicking crew members. Through the view screen, he could see dozens of his ships exploding as they fired on their former allies. This is impossible, he said. Our computer systems are completely secure. You built your security to stop other aliens? Elena replied. You never thought about humans. We do not think like you do. We do not follow your rules, and we certainly do not fight fair. Within an hour, the entire Shard Empire fleet had either surrendered or been destroyed by their own vessels. Not a single human ship was lost in the battle. The news of the victory spread across the galaxy faster than light. The humans had not just defeated the Shard Empire's most powerful fleet. They had humiliated them by turning their own technology against them. But more importantly, they had proven something that terrified every alien government. Human technology was not primitive, it was just different. And that difference made them incredibly dangerous. Species that had ruled the galaxy for millions of years suddenly realized they were facing an enemy they did not understand. The humans could take any alien invention and find a way to weaponize it. They could turn peaceful tools into instruments of war. They could corrupt the most advanced computer systems with simple radio broadcasts. Worst of all, they were teaching these techniques to anyone who would listen. Across the galaxy, oppressed peoples were learning human tactics. Slave worlds were building crude weapons from mining equipment. Conquered species were turning their own infrastructure into instruments of rebellion. The humans had not just brought war back to the galaxy, they had brought revolution. And they were very good teachers. Elena stood on the observation deck. of the research station, watching the captured shard ships being escorted to human space. Each vessel represented years of advanced alien research that would soon be converted into new human weapons. "What are you thinking about?" asked Admiral Torres, who had come to congratulate her on the victory. "I am thinking about what comes next," Elena replied. "We have shown the galaxy that we can fight their armies and win, but the real war is just beginning." "What do you mean?" Torres asked. Elena pointed to a display showing intelligence reports from across civilized space. Rebellion markers were appearing on dozens of worlds. The human example was inspiring others to fight for their freedom. "We are not just fighting for humanity anymore," she said. "We are fighting for everyone who has been told they are too weak, too primitive, or too different to matter." "The aliens called us dangerous primitives," Elena continued. "They were right about the dangerous part, but they were wrong about everything else. We are not primitive. We are just not afraid to get our hands dirty." 5 years had passed since the first human ship reached Proxima Centauri. The galaxy no longer resembled the peaceful place it had been for millions of years. The old order was dead and something new was being born from its ashes. Lieutenant Amy Chun stood on the bridge of the warship Freedom's Dawn, watching a mixed fleet of human and alien vessels prepare for their next mission. Amy was the daughter of Captain Sarah Chun, the woman who had sacrificed her life to send the first message of war to Earth. Now, Amy commanded a ship that carried both humans and aliens who had chosen to fight together. "Status report," Amy called to her bridge crew. "All ships report ready for departure," replied her tactical officer, a tall Zephyrian named Calax. "The joint fleet consists of 47 vessels, 23 human ships, 18 Liberation Union ships, and 6 former Shard Empire vessels that joined our cause." Amy nodded. The sight of aliens serving on human ships would have been impossible just 5 years ago. But the war had changed everything. Species that had been enemies for centuries now fought side by side against the old galactic order. "Open a channel to all ships," Amy ordered. The communication system connected her to dozens of vessels scattered across local space. Human captains, alien commanders, and mixed crews all listened as she prepared to address the fleet. "This is Lieutenant Chun of the Terran Defense Force," she began. "Today we liberate the Epsilon Eridani system. Intelligence reports indicate that the Crystal Collective is holding over 2 million sentient beings in work camps on the 4th planet." She paused, looking around her bridge at the mix of humans and aliens working together. Her first officer was a former Serenity Union diplomat who had joined the humans after his own government refused to help enslaved worlds. Her chief engineer was a Shard Empire defector who had brought advanced weapon designs with him. 5 years ago, the galaxy called us dangerous primitives, Amy continued. "They said we were too violent to be trusted with advanced technology. They were wrong about many things, but they were right about one thing. We are dangerous. We are dangerous to anyone who thinks might makes right. We are dangerous to governments that oppress their own people. We are dangerous to species that believe some beings are worth more than others. Today we show the Crystal Collective what humans learned long ago. Freedom is not something you ask for politely. It is something you take by force." Across the fleet, human and alien crews prepared for battle. But this was not like the early human victories that relied on surprise and suicide attacks. The humans had learned to fight smarter as well as harder. The Liberation Union had been formed 2 years earlier when dozens of oppressed species united under human leadership. They shared technology, tactics, and most importantly, the human philosophy that every sentient being had the right to determine their own fate. "Fleet Admiral Torres wants to speak with you," reported Communications Officer Park. Amy smiled as the image of Admiral Torres appeared on her screen. The man looked older than he had 5 years ago, with gray hair and new scars on his face. But his eyes still burned with the same determination that had driven humanity to the stars. "Amy," Torres said warmly, "are you ready for this mission?" "Yes, sir," Amy replied. "The fleet is prepared and eager to fight." "Remember," Torres said seriously, "this is not just about military victory. We are showing the galaxy that there is an alternative to the old way of doing things. Every being we free today might become an ally tomorrow. Understood, sir, Amy said. We will not just defeat the Crystal Collective. We will give their slaves a reason to keep fighting after we leave. The fleet moved toward the Epsilon Eridani system using a combination of human and alien technology. Human ships still looked crude compared to alien vessels, but now they were crude ships equipped with the most advanced technology in the galaxy. The humans had learned to combine the best of both worlds. Dr. Elena Vasquez had spent 5 years studying alien science, but not to copy it. Instead, she had taught humans how to improve it. Human engineers took alien designs and made them more robust, more adaptable, and much more dangerous. The Crystal Collective fleet that defended Epsilon Eridani was impressive. 50 beautiful ships that looked like floating crystals, each one capable of incredible destruction. Their commander, Admiral Prism, had studied human tactics and thought he was prepared for anything the primitives might try. He was wrong. The human attack began not with weapons, but with words. As the two fleets approached each other, the humans broadcast on every frequency the Crystal Collective used for internal communication, but they were not sending computer viruses or battle commands. Instead, they were broadcasting the personal stories of beings who had escaped from Crystal Collective work camps, slaves who had been freed by human raids, families that had been reunited after decades of separation. My name is Jexel, said one voice over the communication system. I was born in Crystal Collective territory. They told me I was inferior because my species was not advanced enough to deserve freedom. The humans taught me that no one gets to decide the value of another being's life. This is Kralith, said another voice. I served the Crystal Collective for 40 years because I thought their way was the only way. The humans showed me that there are species in this galaxy who will fight and die for strangers, simply because it is the right thing to do. Admiral Prism tried to block the transmissions, but the humans had learned to use the aliens' own communication networks against them. Every time the Crystal Collective tried to coordinate their fleet, they heard more stories of liberation and hope. More importantly, the transmissions were being heard by the Crystal Collective crews themselves. For the first time, many of them were learning what their government really did to conquered worlds. Sir, reported Prism's communication officer, we are receiving surrender requests from 3 of our own ships. Their crews are refusing to fight. That is impossible, Prism said. Crystal Collective citizens are completely loyal. Not anymore, Amy Chen's voice came over the communication system. Admiral Prism, your own people are learning the truth about your empire. They do not want to fight for a government that enslaves millions of innocent beings. You are primitive. Terrorists? Prism replied angrily. You understand nothing about civilized order. Maybe not, Amy said. But we understand something you forgot. Sometimes civilized order is just a pretty name for organized cruelty. The battle that followed was unlike any the galaxy had ever seen. It was not humans fighting aliens, but 2 different philosophies of civilization clashing in space. The Crystal Collective fought to maintain order, using precise formations and advanced tactics. They expected their enemies to behave predictably, so they could counter every move. The Liberation Union fought to spread chaos, using mixed tactics that combined human aggression with alien technology. They did not try to maintain formations or follow standard military doctrine. Instead, they adapted constantly to whatever situation they faced. Human ships worked together with alien vessels in ways that should have been impossible. A former Shard Empire cruiser would provide heavy firepower while human fighters swarmed around it like angry insects. Serenity Union ships used their diplomatic skills to convince enemy crews to defect in the middle of battle. Most effective of all were the mixed crews. Humans provided the aggressive tactics and willingness to take risks. Aliens provided advanced technology and knowledge of enemy weaknesses. Together, they created something entirely new. Target their command ship, Amy ordered her weapons officer. But do not try to destroy it. We want to capture Admiral Prism alive. Why? asked Kallax, her Zephyrian first officer. Because he needs to see what we have built here, Amy replied. He needs to understand that the old galaxy is not coming back. The Freedom's dawn closed in on the Crystal Collective flagship. Instead of using kinetic weapons or explosives, Amy's crew used Dr. Vasquez's latest invention. It was a device that could temporarily disable alien technology without causing permanent damage. The enemy ship suddenly lost power to its weapons and engines. Its beautiful crystal hull went dark as all systems shut down. Within minutes, human boarding parties were cutting through the hull to reach the crew inside. But this was not the brutal boarding action that aliens expected from humans. The Liberation Union had strict rules about the treatment of prisoners and civilian populations. They fought hard, but they also fought with honor. Admiral Prism was brought to the bridge of the Freedom's Dawn as a prisoner. He expected to be executed or tortured, as his own forces often did to captured enemies. Instead, he found himself standing next to aliens who had once served his own empire. "I do not understand," Prism said, looking around the bridge. "These, beings served the Crystal Collective loyally for decades. Why would they betray their own government?" "They did not betray their government," Amy replied. "Their government betrayed them. It told them they were fighting for peace and order. But really, they were fighting to keep millions of beings in slavery." She gestured to her mixed crew. "Look around, Admiral. Humans, Zephyrians, former Shard Empire soldiers, ex-Crystal Collective citizens. We come from different worlds, different cultures, different species. But we all believe in the same thing." "What is that?" Prism asked. "That every sentient being has the right to be free," Amy said simply. "Your empire is built on the idea that some species are more valuable than others. Our alliance is built on the idea that all species have value. You will never defeat the established order," Prism said. "The old empires have resources and technology you cannot match," Amy smiled. "Admiral, we already have defeated the established order. Look around you. 5 years ago, there were a dozen major empires controlling the galaxy through fear and superior technology. How many of them still exist?" Prism thought about it. The Ethereal Conclave had split apart when half their member species joined the Liberation Union. The Shard Empire was fighting a civil war between traditionalists and reformers. Even his own Crystal Collective was facing rebellions on dozens of worlds. "You have brought chaos to a peaceful galaxy," Prism accused. "We brought freedom to an enslaved galaxy," Amy replied. "There is a difference." She walked to the view screen, where the remains of the Crystal Collective fleet were surrendering to Liberation Union forces. But more importantly, transport ships were already heading to the fourth planet to begin freeing the work camps. "The old galaxy was not peaceful," Amy continued. "It was quiet. There is a difference between peace and the silence of the oppressed. Your alliance will not last," Prism said desperately. "Different species cannot work together for long. Your cultural differences will tear you apart." "Maybe," Amy admitted, "but we will deal with those problems when they come. Right now, we have more important work to do." She pointed to the planet below, where millions of beings were tasting freedom for the first time in their lives. "Every person we liberate today makes the galaxy a little bit better. Every species that joins our alliance makes us stronger. Every empire that falls makes room for something new to grow." "The humans did not conquer the galaxy," Amy said. "We infected it with something much more dangerous than weapons. We infected it with an idea." "What idea?" Prism asked. "That things can be better than they are," Amy replied. "That ordinary beings can stand up to powerful governments and win. That freedom is worth fighting for, even if the fight is dangerous." 6 months later, Admiral Torres stood in the Great Assembly Hall on New Earth, the capital world of the Liberation Union. Representatives from over 200 species filled the chamber, debating laws and policies for their growing alliance. The hall was nothing like the elegant crystal dome where the old Galactic Council had met. It was built from simple materials using human construction techniques. But it was also designed to accommodate every type of being in the galaxy, from gas cloud entities to silicon-based life forms. The motion passes, announced Speaker Velix, a former Crystal Collective diplomat who now served as the elected leader of the Assembly. The Liberation Union officially recognizes the independence of the Tau Ceti colonies. Torres smiled as he watched the proceedings. The aliens had learned to argue and debate like humans. They interrupted each other, disagreed loudly, and sometimes even shouted. It was messy and chaotic compared to the old Galactic Council. But it was also alive. Dr. Elena Vasquez approached Torres during a break in the session. She looked tired but satisfied. Her research teams were now working with scientists from dozens of species to develop new technologies for peaceful purposes. "How do you think we are doing?" she asked Torres. "Better than I expected," Torres replied honestly. 5 years ago, I thought we would be lucky to survive contact with alien civilization. I never imagined we would help rebuild it. The other species are learning fast, Elena observed. They are developing their own versions of human tactics and philosophy. Some of them are becoming better at revolution than we are. Torres laughed. Good, that means we taught them well. Do you think the old empires will try to take back control? Elena asked. Some of them will try, Torres said. But they cannot put the idea back in the bottle. Too many beings have seen that there is an alternative to the old way of doing things. He pointed to the assembly hall where representatives were arguing about trade regulations. Look at them. 6 months ago, half these species had never been allowed to make their own decisions. Now they are writing laws and forming governments. The galaxy will never be the same, Elena said. No, Torres agreed. It will never be the same. And that is exactly what we wanted. Amy Chun walked into the hall, still wearing her military uniform. She had been promoted to admiral and now commanded the entire Liberation Union fleet. But she still looked like the young pilot who had grown up hearing stories about her mother's sacrifice. The latest reports from the frontier, she said, handing Torres a datapad. 17 more worlds have declared independence from the old empires this month. They are requesting membership in the Liberation Union. Any military resistance? Torres asked. Some, Amy replied. But most of the old empire fleets are dealing with their own internal problems. Turns out that when you teach people they have rights, they start demanding them. Torres looked around the assembly hall one more time. The galaxy was messier now than it had been before humans arrived. There were more conflicts, more disagreements, more chaos. But there was also more freedom, more opportunity, and more hope than there had been in millions of years. You know, Torres said to Elena and Amy, the aliens were right about us from the beginning. How so? Amy asked. We were dangerous primitives, Torres said with a grin. We just proved that sometimes dangerous primitives are exactly what the galaxy needs. We did not conquer civilization, he continued. We evolved it. We took a galaxy full of peaceful slaves and turned them into free beings who were willing to fight for what they believed in. And that, Torres concluded, is the most human thing we could have done. Outside the assembly hall, transport ships continued to arrive from across the galaxy. They carried refugees from oppressive governments, volunteers wanting to join the liberation forces, and representatives from newly free worlds. The humans had kept their promise. They had not just fought for their own freedom, they had fought for everyone's freedom. And in doing so, they had created something new in the galaxy, a civilization based not on the rule of the strong over the weak, but on the idea that every being had the right to determine their own fate. The age of galactic peace was over. The age of galactic freedom had begun. And the humans were no longer alone among the stars.